Some 10,000 people from around the world took part in a march this past April between former Nazi death camps Auschwitz and Birkenau. The Holocaust, which saw Germany's Nazi regime kill 6 million Jews during World War II, remains one of the darkest periods in human history. But now there is concern that anti-Semitism is spreading in Europe again.
In Hungary, a party that refuses to condemn anti-Semitism won 20% of the vote in a recent national election. The Anti-Defamation League says anti-Semitism is connected to extremist parties in other European countries as well. VOA's Jerome Socolovsky was in Europe for the march and talks with me about it, but first let's take a look at his report.
A Jewish prayer where it was once forbidden, as the marchers set out under the rain and under the sign that bears one of history's most horrible lies, Arbeit macht frei, work makes free. The March of the Living takes place on Yom HaShoah, Holocaust Remembrance Day in Israel, and it has been held every year since 1988.
Do you know what or who inspired this march to begin with?
Well, there was a concern back then already that Holocaust survivors were aging, and people were afraid that what they witnessed, that their testimony would be lost. And so the march was initially conceived as a way of having survivors come, having young people come, and then pass on their witness stories to younger people.
More than 1 million people, mostly Jews, were sent to their deaths in gas chambers like this one, though some were forced to live in conditions that few survived. Fanny Gal toured the camp just before the march.
So nations, I can't forget this. It can never happen again.
There were many participants from Hungary, which accounts for 1/3 of the Jews who died here. Christina Kuhn is also Hungarian and also one of the many non-Jews who marched.
It's important from the young generation because in Hungary, it's a big problem, the anti-Semitism.
Is this your first time there?
This was my first time at Auschwitz and at this March for the Living, and it was a pretty impressive event. Thousands and upon thousands of people marching from Auschwitz to Birkenau, just a long column of people coming in wrapped in Israeli flags and flags of European countries, while the speakers at Birkenau, the loudspeaker system, was reading names of people who perished in Birkenau.
What's it like, I guess, I don't know, you've never seen any of the Nazi death camps before, have you?
I had been to a few, yes.
You have been to a few. So I guess for people who haven't actually been there personally, and in some of your video there, you see the gas chamber, you see the ovens, and I think just about everybody has seen that sort of thing on television. But when you see that personally, what is it like?
I mean, it's a very, at least I can speak personally. I suppose everybody's experience is different, and of course I'm Jewish, so that makes my experience different, I suppose, as well. But being there, I guess you feel the presence of, or I felt that there were, I don't know if exactly ghosts of people, but you're just overwhelmed with this feeling that, my God, at one point there were so many people here in such inhuman, I mean, just brought to the depths of humanity, and it's just unfathomable. Even seeing where they were, even seeing that. Of course, many of the gas chambers were destroyed, but there is at least that one left that we went into. It's just still unfathomable what happened there, and it's so hard to describe and talk about. But it's quite overpowering. And actually being there on the day of the March for the Living is and I guess this is the idea of the march. It's quite inspiring to have people come back and sort of negate what the camp was about by making it a march for the living. The background of the march is that at the end of World War II, when Germany was losing the war, the leaders of the camp took about 750,000 Jews that were left in the camps and just marched them until they died. And so the March for the Living is supposed to be like a denial or a counterpoint to that.